Check. All right. We're going to go ahead and get started. Check. Let's jack that up in the back. All right. Well, great to have everybody here. What a great crowd. For those of you that were not here last week for Sam Pittman, welcome to the 21st season of the Little Rock Touchdown Club. Let's give it up. We claim we're the best touchdown club in America. True story. I got a call this week from a radio station in Louisiana, Coach. They go, we want to know if you would come on the show. So I knew they were probably going to talk about the Razorback upcoming season. And I said, yeah, you want to talk about the Hogs? He said, no, we want to talk about what's going on with the Little Rock Touchdown Club. He said, this host says, I've been following you guys the last few years. And he said, what you guys are doing, we want to know what's going on. So I'm just telling you, the Fine Bombs of the world, everybody around the South, is like they know something's happening in Little Rock. And one way to know it, Jimmy Johnson here today. How about that? Hey. I mean, we have got living history of something no other person in the history of the game of football has accomplished. Played as a player, win a national championship, coach as a head coach, win a college national championship, and coach two teams to a Super Bowl championship. Nobody's ever done that in the history of the game of football. We've got him here today, and we're excited about it. Well, Coach reminded me, plus an Emmy and Broadcasting Hall of Fame right here. How about that? Thank you, Coach. Hey, Houston, you love a guy who knows his stats, right? So next week we will be back. Thanks for dealing with moving over. We did this to accommodate the big crowd for Coach, and really glad to do that. I love the fact that we've had Peyton Manning here in this room. Brett Favre was great last year, and Coach is going to be great. We'll be back in the Marriott next week. Doubletree Hotel next week with Lawrence Taylor. So that will be, matter of fact, Bill Belichick invited Lawrence Taylor to watch the North Carolina game this weekend. I think they're playing TCU, and then we'll get him and bring him Monday for the Touchdown Club. Let's go ahead and get started with a word of prayer. Pigskin Preacher, Chuck Monan from the Pinnacle Church of Christ, would you come up and lead us?
All of us are familiar with the phrase, all men are created equal. And I look over here and see David Basil and Jimmy Johnson and those two magnificent heads of hair, and I realize it's a lie. Let's pray together. Father, we're thankful for the occasion that brings us here. We're thankful for the food and the way you continue to bless us. We're thankful for the rain that replenishes the earth. We're thankful for Coach Johnson and for his life's work, for the influence he's had on young people. We pray your blessings upon him and his family, and be with us throughout the further exercises of this day. In Jesus' name, amen.
One of the purposes of this club is, Coach, to give out annual awards, and you got a chance downstairs a minute ago to see the Broyles Award, which you're very familiar. And be quite frank, gang, one of the reasons I started the Broyles Award was this guy right here, because of what he meant, and got a chance to visit a couple hours with him today about all the different great coaches, assistant coaches that came through Frank Broyles' coaching tree. Really amazing. But that's what we work for, Coach. All those folks up there we recognize in a great way, and recognize some outstanding young men, both in Arkansas and around the country. Coach, you'll see there's more bronze behind me, but we appreciate y'all's support. Can't do it without sponsors. This is the beginning of football. Are you glad football season is finally here? Full schedule of games, yeah. So normally Rex gives us a big recap. No recap today, just a couple minute preview. Your first look, everybody give it up to Rex Nelson, everybody.
Thanks, David. How about those temperatures outside? I tell you, it feels like football, doesn't it? And it is finally here. Our 4 Division I schools open the season this week. The 6 Division II schools that play in the Great American Conference, they don't open until next week. But coming up this week, turn on your TV Thursday night to start the season. That's when UCA goes to Missouri. The Bears were 6-2 entering the 9th week of the season last year, wound up losing their last 4 games. They had been ranked as high as number 5 in the FCS. Missouri, 10-3 last year, 5-3 in the SEC, including a 27-24 victory over Iowa in the Music City Bowl. But the Bears usually play better than expected in these show-me-the-money games against Power 4 schools. So, SEC Network on Thursday night. UAPB on Saturday has the unenviable task of going to Texas Tech to take on a Red Raider squad that was 8-5, including that loss to Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl. They were 6-3 in the Big 12. You'll remember UAPB fell 70-0 last year in the opener against Arkansas here at War Memorial Stadium. The Golden Lions finished 3-9. My advice to them, just make sure the check doesn't bounce at Texas Tech on Saturday. Bring it home. Now, you've got a chance to go to one of either 2 games, or I guess you could go to both if you had an airplane to get you from Fayetteville to Jonesboro. Arkansas State hosts Southeast Missouri State. Red Wolves best not be looking ahead to their showdown with the Razorbacks here in Little Rock a week later. They barely survived, the Red Wolves did, UCA last year, you remember, in the opener at Jonesboro. They scored a touchdown following a controversial call with 3 seconds remaining to beat the Bears 34-31. SEMO was 9-4 last year, 6-2 in the Ohio Valley Conference, and so this team has enough talent to give the Red Wolves all they want Saturday night in Jonesboro. That is a 6 p.m. kickoff. And then you would think the Razorbacks should be able to pretty much name their score Saturday afternoon in Fayetteville. Alabama A&M lost its opener last year by a final score of 73-3 at Auburn. They finished the season 6-4 overall. It should, though, this game allow Bobby Petrino in his second season as offensive coordinator to try out some new schemes and get the Hog offense warmed up for that historic game a week later here at War Memorial Stadium against Arkansas State. That's an afternoon game. So you know what that means, don't you? You have your choice. College football has started. Be in Jonesboro or be in Fayetteville. Be in one of the 2. Get out and see a college football game on Saturday. Thanks, everybody.
All right. He's already in midseason form. We've got some special guests here, but before we do that, I want to recognize our sponsors. And normally I have a little bit extra time to say some extra things about our sponsor, but I'm probably going to be a little brief today just because we have Coach Johnson and don't have him for a lot of time. I just want to make sure we maximize this. First, I got to say thanks to Simmons Bank. Obviously, they helped in going down and getting Coach today, and appreciate Jay Brogdon up here at the head stage, Chad Rawls at the head stage, Chris White down front. Thanks for helping us get Coach. We could not do this kind of thing. Let's give them a round of applause for Simmons Bank. Coach even acknowledged that. That makes a big difference in being able to get folks to come up. He's down there. He was in Key West, Florida this morning, and he's here with us now. So thanks to our amazing sponsor, Simmons Bank. Same thing with Stevens, Curtis Jeffries. I think Warren Simpson is here somewhere. There's Warren right there. Great to have Stevens behind us again this year. Crane Automotive, the Crane family, thanks so much for continuing to be a great sponsor of the Touchdown Club. Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings. I saw Judy Henry. Where's Judy? So great to have Cliff Harris. Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings. It's a sponsored, Cliff, your award for the last 11 years. And we'll introduce him. I'll give him a formal introduction later, but thanks to Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings. Oaklawn Hot Springs, where's my Oaklawn friends? Great to have Wayne over here, and Wayne's wearing his cowboy outfit, which is great. I knew he was a great Cowboy fan, and appreciate him and Zach looking ready to make my first picks, Coach, for this year. Follow me on the Oaklawn Sports app, and I'll win you some money this year, I hope. Summerwood Sports, appreciate the Hendricks family. 40,000 square feet of amazing basketball, volleyball space. Check them out. Great family as well. Double B, Steve Lytle and Ed Light, we appreciate them. 34 locations across the state. Gas it, grab it, go. Sissy Log Cabin, Bill and Sherry Jones. They love their hogs and they love the Touchdown Club. We appreciate them and the Sissy's Log Cabin gang that are here today. Thank you. Renata Jenkins Byler, thank you so much, Renata, for sponsoring the Touchdown Club every year and for many, many years. Roller Funeral Homes. The Hatcher Agency and Twin City Limo, Greg Hatcher does so much behind the scenes for the Touchdown Club. Probably has more members here per week than anybody, and more guests here than anybody. And he's going to help next week with Lawrence Taylor, and just cannot do it without Greg and all his support. Vantage Service Company, Kevin Brooks, One Call Does It All, been in business 35 years. They can take really good care of you for HVAC, electrical needs. They can take care of you. Simmons Bank Arena, Coach, right across the street over here. They got some of the best concerts you can imagine. Great comedy coming here in the next couple of months. Check them out online. Pulaski County Farm Bureau, Todd Dennis, Stephen Reichert. War Memorial Stadium, we never thought we'd see it. Arkansas State and Arkansas next week at War Memorial, the grand old lady. Coach, you've had a game in there. Yeah, that was not a good one. That's not a good memory for Razorback fans there. The last time you were there, we'll move past that. Our media sponsors, Arkansas Democrat Gazette, Wally Hall and Amanda Copley, thanks so much. We'll start our Player of the Week next week. 103.7 The Buzz just had Coach on for 15, 20 minutes. Appreciate them going live. You can text folks and say, yeah, you can listen to the Coach live on 103.7 The Buzz. And my partner, Roger Scott, thank him so much for being there for me every day. AY Media, AY Magazine, boy, I tell you what, this has been a great timing for this magazine to come out. A lot of Coach was pleased with the article. Not very often, Coach, when you do one and you do it back, you go, very good. So good job, Heather Baker. So very nice there. Arkansas PBS, Coach, we've got an amazing staff in the back from Arkansas PBS. I call them the best in the nation. That's what I call them, Chris Kane. But they are so great to work with. They do such a high-level production. We appreciate them. JF Media Marketing, Alicia Dover, Jeremy Flynn. Social media, what Coach says today will be all around the country by the end of the day. So, Coach says, that's fine. Listen, that's what we do here at the Touchdown Club, but thanks to them. The Doubletree Hotel, they are terrific. Be glad to be back with them next week. Sunbelt Convention Services, Tim Glasscock. Rockstar Passes, Brad Rickett, and appreciate him and Joy Gonzalez. And our new sponsors this year, Midtown Plumbing, Haley and Jim Coleman, and Kyle Jackson. Thanks so much to Midtown. Glad to have them on board this year. Arkansas Surgical Hospital, here today, Dr. Joel Smith with Martin Orthopedics. He's a physician every Friday night at CAC. Great to have them with us this year. It's a great facility. And Arkansas Spine and Pain, Dr. Qureshi, Dr. Q as they call him, and Scott Davis. Great to have them sponsoring our live broadcast and here today. How about a round of applause for all those sponsors? I mean, that's a lot, Coach. That's a lot of sponsors. Wow. Dwayne Duncan, who shoots our photos for the Touchdown Club, best in the business. Chris Kane, RJ Hawk, Steve Sullivan, who will do Coaches Open. Steve Qualls doing our T-shirt designs. Could not do it without them. And, Coach, we've got the best volunteer group in America. We've got about 25 or 30 volunteers that come in each Monday and Tuesday to help out, led by Debbie Wyman. Let's give them a big round of applause. They do a great job. And, of course, Rex, having Rex every week is also a great treat. We appreciate his time and effort into this. All right, we've got to introduce some special guests, and then we're going to get Coach up here. First, one of our faithful members. We always recognize her. I don't see her. The Lieutenant Governor's here. Leslie Rutledge. Let's give it up for the Lieutenant Governor's here. The Governor tried to be here today. She was close, but she just could not get here, Coach. I thought we were going to have her. I think it's fitting that we introduce the only quarterback to win a national championship in this room for the University of Arkansas, Freddie Marshall. Where's Freddie at? Where's Freddie at? Where's he at? There he is. The only quarterback to win a national championship. Did want to also recognize the Broyles family. Betsy Broyles Arnold is here today, the daughter of Coach Broyles, and Molly Harrell, the granddaughter of Coach Broyles. They got a chance to meet Coach and do some pictures. Let's welcome them back to the Touchdown Club again. Where are they at? Yeah. 30th year for the Broyles Award. Hard to believe, Coach, that we started that back in 1996, and Coach and I had a chance to talk about that. And listen, a lot of respect for that award, and he's one of the reasons there is a Broyles Award. Also, two special guests in addition to everybody I've mentioned. There's a lot of Tigers and Lions and Bears, but there's only one Razorback. Ain't but one. Houston Nutt, everybody. Houston Nutt down front. And Coach, we talk about, I think we've had in 21 years, I think we've had 12 or 13 what we call gold jackets. You're a gold jacket. And our man up there, number 43, is a gold jacket. We're so proud to be able to promote Cliff Harris and what he stands for. Was overlooked in high school, sort of overlooked coming out of college at OBU. He only goes on to play in 5 Super Bowls in 10 years. 5 Super Bowls. And now he is a gold jacket member. Cliff Harris, everybody. And he still looks like he could play safety. Coach, he really changed the way the safety position was played. He'd last about a quarter in today's game because he'd be ejected right off the bat. But he was, I'm just telling you. But, Coach, you got a chance to see Cliff's trophy, and the fact that Coach said, man, these are so big. And I said, Coach, we give out 3 of these things. We give one out Division 2 winner, Division 3 and NAIA. That's $10,000 in trophies every year, and those kids go crazy. Because small college football is outstanding too. And Cliff Harris proved that. So, Cliff, great to have you here today. All right, what a treat we're going to have. Listen, if we had 3 hours, he could fill 3 hours. I just got a chance to talk to him. Some of his stories he could tell. Some of his stories he can't. But we're gonna tell some funny ones now. So without further ado, let's get to Steve Sullivan from KATV to welcome our special guest today.
How would you like to line up against this guy in college? Jimmy Johnson was an all-conference lineman on the Hogs national championship team. 8 years later, he was back at Arkansas as defensive coordinator. Fast forward to 1984, fresh off a 3-year stint as Oklahoma State's head coach, Johnson gets a call that changes his life. Miami.
And maybe I can add something. And maybe I can make it just a little better, and that's what we're going to try to do.
The perfect fit. A coach and a team with a lot of swagger. Johnson's bad boys of college football went 52-9 in a 5-year period, appearing in 5 New Year's Bowl games and winning 1 national title. Following a legend is almost always a bad idea, unless you're Jimmy Johnson. Just 4 years after replacing Tom Landry, Johnson took his Cowboys to back-to-back Super Bowl titles. They went from worst to first.
But I will say one thing right now. How about them Cowboys?
He's a member of the College Football Hall of Fame and the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And yes, the Cowboys Ring of Honor. Please welcome a good broadcaster, a great Razorback, and a Hall of Fame coach, Jimmy Johnson.
Thank you.
All right, don't sit down yet. So I asked Coach today, you started your career as a Razorback, and you went on and you visited some other colleges in Miami and Dallas Cowboys, but I asked him, does Coach remember how to call the Hogs? Did they call the Hogs back in the 60s?
Can you help me with the words?
Let's do it for Coach. Pig Suey. Pig Suey. One more time. Pig Suey. Razorback. Oh, man, that's outstanding, Coach. Have a seat. So funny, we were in the van coming over here, and we're doing some social media with JNF Media, and I said, I was doing a little interview, and I said, Coach, we're great to have Coach Johnson here in Arkansas, and you said, Dave, it's great to be back, and just like he's a pro broadcaster, Hall of Famer, and he said, we went back and forth, and at the very end, I'm signing off. I thought I was going to have the last word, so I said something like, join us there today, and Coach said, go Hogs. I had to do a double take. I'm not used to seeing that, Coach.
I still pull for the Razorbacks.
So, well, you should. Now, Coach, you've only been back here to Little Rock a few times. We talked about, I alluded to the game in the 90s, or the 80s rather.
Right.
That you did, that just really blew us out there at the stadium. And then I think you came in for you and I think you and Jerry were doing some negotiating
right
at the time to buy the Cowboys. That you came in,
Well, no, we weren't buying the Cowboys. I didn't have that kind of money. He was buying the Cowboys.
That's right. But you came in, I think, secretly. I think when that was going on, and then you came back for in the '90s for the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's really a pleasure for me to be back here. I told David, earlier on, growing up in Port Arthur, Texas, none of my family had ever gone to college. And, my dad worked 7 days a week at an ice cream factory. We lived in a little duplex that they furnished for us. Mother was a checker in a grocery store. And so Mother and Daddy from Lamar, Arkansas. I didn't realize that Lamar's still there, a really small town.
But by the way, it's between Clarksville and Russellville, if you don't know where Lamar is.
And so anyway, I'm thinking, well, hey, I got a chance to go to college, and the Air Force Academy came down. I met with my congressman, and so I'm thinking I'm going to go to the Air Force Academy. I'm saluting everybody. And then other schools started coming down, Alabama and A&M. And so Arkansas came down. Jim McKenzie, he looked at my tape, and he offered me a scholarship right there. I'd never been to Fayetteville before in my life. And I said, well, let me talk to Mother and Daddy. And Mother looked at me, and she said, listen, you can go wherever you want to go. But if you want us to watch you play, you're going to Arkansas. Well, I committed right then and there. Never visited Fayetteville in my life. I committed to Arkansas right there. I canceled all my other trips. And I think the thing about it, they were so proud. They were so proud of me. I think that's what drove me to try to be the best that I could be wherever I was, because of the pride that they had in me, the work ethic that, of course, I got from my father. But it was one of the greatest decisions I ever made, going to the University of Arkansas, obviously winning the national championship. But great experiences, a great background. I think Freddie Marshall really got upset with me this morning. I said, Freddie, you know what, looking back, because I've gone through coaching all over the country, looking back, we really weren't that talented. And Freddie looked at me like, well, maybe you weren't, but I was. But we weren't. But Frank Broyles had put together such a tremendous coaching staff. We were so blessed to have, people like Jim McKenzie, Doug Dickey, Bill Pace, Wilson Matthews, on, Johnny Majors. I mean, he had such a smart, and of course Frank was such a smart individual himself, very, very intelligent. And I think because of the coaching staff that he put together, we were able to go out there and win those games. And Freddie, again, we weren't that talented. Well, but we had a great coaching staff, and Frank Broyles was the guy that led us.
So much to, so many different directions here. I was going to go ahead right off the bat and say, too, has everybody seen the Netflix? A lot of people seen the Netflix series on the Dallas Cowboys? Wow. So I asked Coach, and Coach, you've seen some of it, and your just first response?
Well, Jerry and I have had off and on relationships. And we were in Carolina when we were announcing that I was going to go in the Ring of Honor. And he told an off-color story. And I said, Jerry. He said, no problem. I got final say on editorial content. Well, watching the Netflix, he had final say on what was put in the Netflix documentary. It was definitely the Jerry Jones documentary.
There you go.
Hey, I'm just being honest. At 82 years old, you can't lie. You can tell the truth.
So, Coach knows so many people. And when some of your friends heard that you were going to be here today, they wanted to send a message. Well, let's start with this first one here. If you look back up there, Coach, it's one of your dearest friends. I need if you could get that first. There he is.
There's
Terry
my guy.
Bradshaw wanted to send you a little voicemail.
Jimmy Johnson's what a treat you're in for today. Having one of the greatest motivational speakers I've ever heard. He hails from the great state of Texas by way of Beaumont, Texas. When he was 7 years old, he smoked his first pack of cigarettes. His first pack of beer when he was 9. He's got some stories to tell you that'll have you falling out of your chair. Smartest human being I ever met in my life. What a treat. I just wish I was getting paid $100,000 like he told me. Wow, guys are so fortunate. Anyway, sit back, relax, and get ready for a real entertaining show. He's the best. Jimmy Johnson.
Terry Bradshaw. Now let me. Terry is my best friend. I actually watched him play high school football when I was coaching at Louisiana Tech. He was a senior at Woodlawn High School in Shreveport. So we go back a long way. And obviously over the last, 31 years with Fox, we have become really close. We watched a lot of Razorback games, I promise you, because 31 years ago, we'd fly to L.A., we have 3 TVs set up. We'd watch college football all day Saturday before we went to do the show. And he is unbelievable. I mean, of course, you've had him here. The most generous man you've ever known. Really just a great guy. The only thing is he gets after my wife, Rhonda, because he has the same comment. I talked to him day before yesterday. He said, Rhonda in there? I said, yeah, Rhonda's here. He said, would you please tell her to stop sending me those naked pictures? Because really, now, I know she photoshopped that last one, but she looks a little bloated. Please do not send me any more naked pictures, And every time.
Well, and I will say this: he's as sincere, and his wife Tammy are sincere people that I've ever been around for the star power that he has. And by the way, if you hadn't heard, on Morning Mayhem every Tuesday throughout football season, Terry Bradshaw is going to call our show every week throughout football season. So we're really excited about that. Somebody else wanted to send you a little message. This is one of your teammates from that '64 National Championship that couldn't be here, Coach Ken Hatfield. Let's see what Ken had to say.
In the fall of 1961, as Jimmy and I walked together to our first University of Arkansas class, a 7:30 speech class, I discovered Jimmy was easygoing and laughed a lot. That never changed in 4 years. As a player, Jimmy was smart, quick, tough, and a dominant nose guard for our 1964 defense that shut out our last 5 opponents. Playing on our national championship team helped prepare Jimmy for the ultimate success in coaching. He is the first head football coach to win both a collegiate national championship and a Super Bowl. The national championship he won at the University of Miami, and 2 Super Bowl championships with the Dallas Cowboys. Sit back, relax, and enjoy some fun times with my friend, Jimmy Johnson.
There you go.
That's great. I'll say this about Ken. He talked about us shutting out 0, the last 5 opponents of the regular season when we won the national championship. And we were pretty decent on offense too, Freddie. You notice I said just decent, right? But anyway, we shut out the last 5 opponents of the regular season. But the key to that season, winning the national championship, was when we went down to Austin and we beat Texas. And the biggest play in the ball game was when Kenny ran a punt return back for a touchdown. Yeah, was a heck of a player for us.
I want to show, out of respect, if you could, Anita, show photo 3 here. I want to show your mom and dad, CW and Aline Johnson. If we could, there they are. So those two folks right there are the reason Jimmy Johnson came to Arkansas. From as you mentioned, Lamar. And I love the fact you said your dad was a hard worker, oil refinery in Port Arthur, also dairy,
Right.
7 days a week, and that you guys didn't have a lot. I read a story where you and your brother slept together, and your sister slept in a closet, that you didn't have much.
Isn't that the way everybody rose up? No, but I tell you what we did. You know how hot it is, hot in South Texas? With that little old duplex, we had a window fan, and if you closed it off just right, you could get enough air going across to where you could sleep at night. And we went from that window fan, we got us an air conditioning unit, I think my senior year in high school. Man, was that great.
The other thing that we talking about your time in Port Arthur when you were playing in high school, you were a good football player, but one of the things we always say trivia on our show is that who was Jimmy Johnson's famous classmate at Port Arthur? We always throw it out there. It was Janis Joplin. Go ahead, Anita, and show this next picture. So she actually sat right. That's if you look at the bottom.
Right.
That's her on the right. That's Coach on the left. And you were in history class together, both JJ's and JJ, and you both didn't care for one another.
Do you want me to tell the story?
There were several. Hey, your show, Coach.
We actually lived 3 blocks from each other, and people said I bullied her. I didn't bully her. She talked about me being a jock, and I talked to her about being a beatnik because she wore the black leotards. And anyway, I gave her nickname, Beat Weeds, because she was beat. Oh, go ahead. You got the rest of it.
Okay. But who would have believed you would have 2 people in that classroom that would go on to become icons of their particular field? Obviously, she was iconic.
Oh, yeah.
You've been iconic. And that right there at a little Port Arthur, you probably had no idea looking at each other that was what would be the future.
Yeah, and she probably never thought I would get anywhere, and I never thought she'd get anywhere. But we had a little success.
Let's show Coach photo 6, Anita. Coach, this is you, number 60 right there, good-looking guy, nose guard. You mentioned that you played with some great players on that defense, Ronnie Cavness, Lloyd Phillips. Just to name a few. I mean, pretty remarkable to shut out 5 of your last opponents. I mean, that's unheard of. Not the biggest defense. You were undersized too, but you were also very fast.
Yeah, we found out how big we were when we played Nebraska in the Cotton Bowl. Man, I remember back first or second play, and that's a long time ago. They rolled me up like a window shade, but we were able to come out on top. But again, I think the coaching staff. I mean, I look back, and because I've coached for 100 years, I've been able to compare and see different teams, and different talent. The talent we had at University of Miami was just unbelievable. I thought I was really, really good, because we were just beating everybody by a lot. And I went to Dallas to the professional league, and I saw what they were playing with. I said, no, I wasn't good. I just had really good players. And that's because Dallas, Tom Landry was a great, great coach. He had 3 straight losing seasons. They were the worst team in the NFL, 3-13 before we got there. And, I told people, I said, listen, it wasn't because of coaching. It's because they just didn't have enough talent. We've got to bring more talent in, and that's what we did.
Speaking of coaches, show Anita a photo 7. This is the coaching staff of the 64 team, Coach. I mean, you look at this. My goodness. You got Frank Burrows, Jim McKenzie, Johnny Majors, Merv Johnson, Barry Switzer, Wilson Matthews. I mean, you got some of the best football coaches in the game right there with that group.
Yeah, I can't say enough about them and just how good they were.
Coach,
they brought out the best in us. That was, every single player, we played at a max. We played as good as we could play because of the way we were coached.
What about, that team had so many successful people. Do you remember the first time you met Jerry Jones, what that was like, your impressions of him? I know he came from a little bit more money than you did, but...
Little. He had a car.
He had a car. So what are your memories of Jerry?
Yeah, Mother and Daddy, they were so proud. They were so proud of me, and they said, listen, You're going to be on scholarship, room, board, books, tuition, fees. There's no NIL back then, unless, I don't know, Houston, was there any NIL? No. Freddie, were you getting anything? Oh, what, $5? But Mother and Daddy said, listen, we're going to send you $25 a month because you got room, board, books, tuition, and fees. And you're going to get $25 a month on spending money. I said, well, they don't give us a meal on what was it, on Sunday night. I got to buy a meal. Well, they said $25 a month. That's what you're going to get, man. I was happy to get it. What about David?
Well, I was going to say,
how much you get? You probably got more than me.
But I found out that you found a way to make money over at the student union.
I wasn't real good at going to class. But I had good grades, Actually, I was taking invertebrate zoology before I got into the psychology degree, and the class was boring, and so I'd taken a test, and actually the professor brought me up, there at midterm, and said, he said, I've never given a perfect paper, but we had a test on genetics, and I don't know why, but I had a perfect paper. And so I thought I was just doing so good, I'd stop going to class at midterm. I started going to the union and playing bridge to pick up some money at penny a point. And, I went to get my final grade because I had back a B plus or something like that. And you know how they post the grades, after the finals? I had an F. I'd never flunked anything in my life. And so I went to the professor. I said, well, what is this? I mean, I had my grades, I had a B plus, and and you only had one test left. It was the final, and I made a C or B on the final. So he said, but you stopped coming to my class. I said, you don't count class attendance. And you realize how much money I made playing bridge in the student union? Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry was making money selling tickets. You were making money
playing bridge. Yeah, Jerry was selling shoes and selling tickets. I mean, he is a money-making fool now. It's amazing. He really is. I've always said this. He is the smartest, hardest-working businessman I've ever known in my life. The best marketer, I think, in the entire country. It's amazing some of the stories I could tell you that he wouldn't want me to tell you about making money. He's really good.
I do want to, before we moved off the team, this is one of my favorite. These two photos I want to show real quick. Photo 8, Anita. This is the team celebration. The team photo. This is after winning the national championship. This was done, Coach, after the season was over. Coach Broyles is not there. Switcher's not there. People have moved on. Jerry is circled bottom there. That's shooting the top. But you said you just got back from Mabel's. Is that where it was? Mabel's?
Yeah.
Mabel's Bar?
Mabel's, I think it's a huddle club, but I was actually playing the pinball, and I'd had me 2 or 3 beers before. They said, you got to get back for the team picture. I had a huge smile on my face.
And this next one, I was just saying, I think this coach is either after the Nebraska game. So I want you to look there. If you look to the top, to the far left, that's Frank Broyles. Right. If you look way up to the top right, that's Barry Switzer. Lloyd Phillips is above Coach Johnson right there. Below him is Jerry Jones, and at the very bottom is Freddie Marshall. How iconic is that photo right there?
That was after the national championship.
That was after the Nebraska. Yeah.
Ronnie Kavnes was the defensive player of the game there.
That's a picture I'd never seen before, and so I just wanted to share that because it was just, there are iconic figures in that photo. I do want to go ahead and show. Coach, you went on to become a great assistant coach in a lot of places. I want to show a photo from you when you were at Arkansas. Photo 10, Anita. You had great hair even at Arkansas. Look at that hair.
You know what stands out more than the hair?
What?
The polka dot. Our pants were that same color as the collar. Red and white polka dot pants. I don't know if Frank picked those out or man, were those the most awful looking pants I'd ever seen.
Well, you had made some stops along the way, but you came back to Arkansas in the late 70s and had an impact for a few years you were here. And one of the guys, actually we're going to talk to a couple of them. One of them couldn't be here, but wanted to send you a message and listen to what our buddy, another gold jacket that we have on Morning Mayhem every Friday, Dan Hampton. Take a look.
Hi, this is Dan Hampton, and let me be the first to welcome back the great Jimmy Johnson to the great state of Arkansas, where it all started for him long, long ago. You know, I had the pleasure of being on Jimmy's defenses for a couple of years, and I've been around a lot of coaches and a lot of teams, and he was one of the greats. You know, last summer I went into the College Football Hall of Fame, and never would have happened except, you know, for the fact that I had so many great coaches. But maybe the two most instrumental was not only Jimmy, but Harold Horton. We lost Harold back in the spring, but Harold Horton was my position coach my last 2 years, after Jimmy coached me my first 2 years. And I'll never forget, the first time I saw Jimmy, he came to Jacksonville High School recruiting me, and he knocked on the door, and, you know, I asked Miss McGinney if he could speak to Dan Hampton, and I was a 6'6" dork, you know, long hair and glasses, and playing in the high school band. And he said, you know, how you doing, son? And I said, I'm fine. He said, listen, you know, we think you have a future at the University of Arkansas as a student athlete. And I said, wow, that's great. And I'm looking at him, and his hair is perfect. And I said, well, what we got to do? He goes, well, first things first, we got to figure out what we're going to do with your grades. They're not so good. But he found out that he talked to the principal, and they got things worked out. And I went to Arkansas, and that was long ago, but it was the beginning of Jimmy's great coaching career. From there, he went to Pittsburgh, then Oklahoma State, Miami, and then the Dallas Cowboys. He was perfect as the Dallas Cowboy. Wasn't he a villain? But so many of the players, like Jimmy Walker. Jimmy Walker and I both made All-American my senior year. And if Jimmy had not been a part of the coaching staff that wanted to bring us, you know, Jimmy got a scholarship after he played great in the high school all-star game because of Jimmy Johnson saying, hey, this kid has a future in the college football ranks. And so how many lives did he touch? I don't know, but he touched ours. We can't thank him enough. God bless you, Jimmy. Go Hogs.
How about that? Dan Hampton.
I tell you, we actually thought Dan was going to be an offensive tackle. You know, big, like he said, big old 6'6", lanky. And we thought with that reach and arm reach and everything, he'd be a great offensive tackle. And I asked Frank, I said, you know, Coach, let me try him on defense. Let me give him a shot on defense, see what happens, and ends up being a Hall of Fame player on defense. Great football player.
Another gentleman that we know very well got a chance to play for you and coach under you, and obviously was influenced by what you do. I think he wants to say a few words. Houston Nutt, come on up and say a few words about Coach Johnson.
One of the great recruiters in college football right there.
1976, I'm a freshman, University of Arkansas. Bo Busby's there, Dan Hampton's there. And I noticed I'm getting a center quarterback exchange, and here comes this assistant coach, and y'all been talking about his hair. But I've never seen a coach that can run on the field with so much enthusiasm and passion and not one hair out of place. It's unbelievable. Fast forward, I had the privilege to play for him at Oklahoma State. It's two-a-days, real two-a-days, Bo, David, real two-a-days. We're hurting. The heat index has been 110 and over 100 degrees 10 straight days. I'm in the training room next to Dexter Manley, Ed Smith, Worley Taylor, and here comes Coach Johnson. We're getting our ankles taped, and we're not loving life, guys. Coach Johnson comes in, everybody raring to go, and not much response. And he had this theme, which I loved. Guys, you're a little bit hot, you're a little bit tired, you're a little bit sore. Press on. Just press on. And we're saying, okay, yes. How are we going to get through this thing? We go down, we get stretch lines, and it's hot. Hot turf, remember? Hot. Get through stretching. He blows the whistle. He says, take off your pads. Boy, we start getting excited. Take off your pads. He walks us 800 yards to the swimming pool. Now, you're talking about 105 guys that hated life just 5 minutes ago. All of a sudden, he comes up to us as we're in this cool, wonderful water, hitting a volleyball, dive in the pool, and Coach Johnson says, how's everything? Coach, everything's great. He knew how to hit the right buttons. Now, he got it out of us the next day. We went to work. But here's what I love. And I was all eyes from the time I was a freshman and I was watching him. We don't play very well. We're on the road. Get on an airplane. And there's a little bit of laughter in the back of the plane. I'm glad I'm not back there because he hightails it off the first row seat. And he goes back to the back of the room and says, "What's so funny? I don't know about you, but I'm sick to my stomach. And you better be sick to your stomach or I'll throw you off this plane." Everybody kind of got in their seat. But there's so many lessons I can go on and on. But the last one I'll tell you about is I learned, a lot of my Little League coaches would say, we treat everybody the same. In baseball and Pee Wee football, we treat everybody the same. Well, I've learned one other thing from Coach Johnson. Coach Johnson doesn't treat everybody the same. He treats you the way you deserve to be treated. You go to class, you pass the 16 110-yard dashes conditioning test, you're going to be okay. But if you're sleeping in his meeting and your name is on those lists and you didn't pass those tests, guess what? You're going to get kicked out of that room. He's not going to treat you the same as he would a Thurman Thomas, a Barry Sanders, or Michael Irvin, on and on. But anyway, Coach, thank you for all the lessons. Appreciate you.
All right, Houston, everybody.
Love you. Houston took the coaching extremely well. Yeah, he knew. Michael Irvin tells the story, true story. We were with the Dallas Cowboys, and we'd already wrapped up the playoffs, and we went to Washington to play. Back then the Redskins and the Commanders now, and we went out there and just flopped around and played and turned the ball over on and on. Oh, I was so mad. I was furious. We got on that plane and the gal starts to serve the food. I said, no, sit back down. They don't deserve to eat. Yeah, they don't deserve to eat. They didn't play well enough to eat. Sit down. Everybody keep your seat for the plane back from Washington back to Dallas. Wanstead comes into my office the next morning. He said, "Coach, man," he said, "you're a little hard on them." I said, "Hey, Dave, if we lose and we play like that, I want them to be sick to their stomach. I want them to be nauseated. I want them to hurt. I don't care if they hate me. I don't care if they think I'm an a-hole. I mean, I want to make an impact to them how important it is to win as opposed to losing the game." So Michael Irvin tells a story, for the rest of the years, he'd go back in the huddle and they might be playing not so good. He'd say, "Guys, listen, I want to eat going home."
Coach, I wanted to, I think everybody in this room, most everybody in this room knows a little bit about the history of, you thought you maybe had opportunities to become the head coach at Arkansas. First when Coach Broyles retired, and he hired my coach, Lou Holtz. And then when I was still there as a player, he hired Ken Hatfield. And I know that was something that I'm sure didn't sit well with you, but I know looking back, interesting how things work out the way they do. Just maybe reflect on those two decisions by Coach Broyles and how it affected your career arc, if you will.
Well, obviously, playing at Arkansas, having love for Arkansas, I wanted to be the Arkansas head football coach. We had gone to the Cotton Bowl the year before Frank had retired, and going through the season, he had indicated that there might be an opportunity for me to be the head coach. We didn't play well at the end of the season, and he said, "Hey, I've got to open it up." He hires Lou Holtz, and it was the right decision. Lou Holtz was better qualified than I was. I wasn't as prepared to be a head coach as what Lou was. Then the other situation, I was at Oklahoma State. We'd won our bowl game. We played well. I was coach of the year. Just recruited Thurman Thomas, #1 player in the United States, and interviewed for the job. We went to Herman's Rib House and stayed 20 or 30 minutes. And then Al Whitty, the faculty rep that I used to play bridge with at Frank's house, anyway, Al took me back to the airport, and I said, why'd I even come in for the interview? I mean, because he wasn't going to give me the job, and I was upset. But as it turns out, like you said, David, things turn out well because shortly thereafter, I got the University of Miami job. It was a difficult transition because one of the stipulations that I had taken the Miami job, because it was so late in the year, right before the season, I was required to retain that coaching staff. So I said, listen, I don't know any of these guys, and they're going to be my assistants. Come to find out, 3 of them had applied for the job and was told 30 minutes before I came into the room to meet them that they didn't get the job. I did. Obviously, they didn't like me. They were told that if they didn't want to work for me, they would still get their year's salary. One coach right there at that meeting said, I can't work for you. And so he walked out of the room. And then it was a very difficult year. But then I was able to bring in my guys the next year, the Dave Wanstedts, the Butch Davis, the Tony Wise, on and on. I brought in my guys, and we went the next 4 years. We lost 1 regular season game and a bowl game and won a national championship. Actually, we would have won another national championship had we had instant replay against Notre Dame. And Lou would have never gotten the national championship. And in fact, I'm going to go to the Notre Dame game Sunday night, and they want me to bring back, let's see, when you look at the record book, the worst beating Notre Dame ever had in the history of Notre Dame, is that University of Miami? Yeah. Oh, yeah. They said I was running up the score. I wasn't running up the score. Our backups were running up the score.
Do you guys know what his record was at Miami in the 5 years? 52-9. 52-9. Your years at Miami.
Well, let me throw one other thing. If you ever have a couple of minutes, look back at who we played. We were an independent back then. And so a lot of the games, we didn't have a home contract with him. We played Michigan at Michigan, Bo Schembechler, and beat him 31-31, whatever it was. And Notre Dame, we should have been 4-0, but we were 3-1 because of instant replay. Oklahoma, we were 3-0. Florida State, Florida 2-0. Florida State 3-1. I lost my first game there. We played a national schedule, but the thing about it, back then television was, you had one national game, you had a couple of regional games. And because of our schedule, who we were playing, every other week we were on national television, so we were able to recruit great players. Really helped us. And of course, not only we had a great schedule and playing great teams, we were able to beat those teams. That's why we got good players. It's a different world today.
So you talking about not getting the job at Arkansas, getting the job at Miami certainly gave you the platform to where Jerry Jones bought the Cowboys. It was time to get his old buddy to Dallas. The Netflix series obviously details that. Is that pretty accurate about how things came together? I know that Jerry took you to
accurate. I said he's got editorial content approval.
I did. You did tell me that one of the things that you were telling Jerry that, hey, you wanted to try to keep this quiet, about him hiring you, and you guys end up going to the Mexican restaurant.
Right.
That it was Tom Landry's favorite.
Jerry being Jerry. He said, hey, listen, we sat in with Bumbright and they negotiated the price of the team and back and forth. And Jerry said, I'm going to have to borrow $140 million and all this stuff. And so we go back to the hotel and he said, let's go celebrate. Let's go celebrate. And he said, I know you like Mexican food. He said, we'll go to this little old Mexican restaurant. I said, Jerry, I've been on national television a bunch, and I think people might recognize me. He said, oh, no, it's a little old place out of the wall, Mia's. He said, man, it's a little old place. Nobody's going to notice us in there. Well, come to find out, it was Tom Landry's favorite restaurant. True story. And we walk in, and Ivan Mizell with the Dallas Morning News was having dinner there. Man, he called. He said, "Get us a photographer over here right now." But Jerry is something. Has Jerry spoke to this group before?
He is not.
Man, he is a storyteller. I'll give you one here. Can I tell the Billy Moore? Okay. We're at the Sugar Bowl. And Jerry and I were both sophomores. We were rooming together. And so they got bed checked. And we're sitting there, and before we're going to play the Sugar Bowl, Lon Farrell comes and knocks on the door. And he was an administrator type thing. And Lon said, "Oh, yeah, all the coaches and their wives, they're going to this hot dinner and everything. I got to check rooms." And so, he goes, and Jerry says, "They're all at a dinner. We can go right down the street and maybe get us a cold beer or something. This is after curfew." I said, "Well, let's go, Jerry. Whatever." And so we went down and we sat down at this bar, and they said, "Y'all are football players going to play in the Sugar Bowl?" I said, Yeah. They started buying us drinks. And we're sitting there drinking beer, just having a hell of a time. And so a hand gets on my shoulder. It's Doug Dickey, our offensive backfield coach. Doug Dickey says, "Boys, pay for your drinks. We're going out of here." I said, "Oh, no, they're paying for the drinks right down there." He said, "You get your rear end back to your rooms." He said, "I don't know if I'm going to tell Coach Sproles tonight, because Coach Sproles liable to send you home." And I said, "Oh, man, we are sweating." I just knew. We were sophomores. I just knew they were going to send us home. And so, Jerry being Jerry, we're walking back to the hotel, and Billy Moore, boy, there's some Billy Moore stories too now. And I can't tell you the Billy Moore stories. But anyway, Billy, I think he was rooming with Jerry Manzani. And so Billy said, Jerry. And so he said, "What happened? What happened?" So we go in the room, and the door to their room was open. And so we go back in the room, and Jerry starts, "And we were having drinks, and they were buying us drinks, and they were doing," and Doug Dickey comes in, and I look at the back of the room, there's Doug. I'm going, He said, "I told you to get to your room," and then so we go back to the room, didn't sleep a wink that whole night. I don't know if he ever told Coach Sproles or not, but they didn't send us home. We nearly got sent home, both of us.
So that's a story, you and Jerry. Watching that special, Coach, it was a lot of emotion. You guys went through a lot together, and you started out. Jerry was criticized heavily. I mean, he had bullets flying at him just for buying the thing, and then firing Tom Landry, and then you guys start 1-15. So you both, you got to sort of had to have each other's back. You were the only two there. It's sort of sad to know that, man, at one point you guys were fighting for the right things, and then maybe the way it ended just didn't have that same kind of feel.
I think the problem we had, and I think this is a good lesson for everybody, is when we first went there, like I said, they were the worst team in the league. And we went 1-15, so obviously we didn't improve on it a whole lot. But we'd go in, and every day we would talk back and forth. We'd communicate. And Jerry had borrowed all that money, and he was trying to pay off the loan. They were losing money with the Cowboys. He was trying to sell suites. In fact, I sat with him when we sold the first suite to Don Tyson. We were on the plane. That was part of my contract, that I helped him sell suites. And so he paid me for that anyway. But anyway, we didn't have a whole hell of a lot of friends. And so the two of us, that we were each other's friend. We were probably the only ones that would talk to each other. And then we go on and we win a Super Bowl. And then after that, now the loan gets paid off, and I start going my way. He starts going his way. And I think because we stopped communicating, we probably had some tension there, and we had some tough times. But we're really good now. We talk now. When we see each other, it's like we're best friends, and so it's all good.
I want to show this picture here, number 13, Anita. These three guys obviously were such a key component for you: Torrey Aikman, Emmitt Smith, and Michael Irvin. obviously that's legacy. That's a legacy group right there. Let's start with Troy Aikman, just what he meant to you. That one thing in the Netflix special, Coach, that really comes across. I know there's some things that maybe Troy didn't like about that special, and you didn't either. But I know that's something you did, that the bond that you guys have together.
Yeah, Troy, along with Terry, one of my best friends now. He comes down every year and spends time with me. He's such a competitor. He got such a great work ethic. He's such a family man. Just such a good person. I've got a great feeling for him. Yeah, he's something. I get, Houston knows this. You really motivate different people in different ways. When you look at the three of them, of course, Michael played for me there at University of Miami, and Michael's always on the edge a little bit. So if you watch the special, he's really on the edge. But he was on the edge, not when I was coaching him, but I had to call him in my office quite a few times. And then Emmett, of course, Emmett was such a player. I tried to recruit him at University of Miami, but he went to Florida. I think they had NIL back then, Houston. But you look at the three, I could cuss Michael like a sailor. And he would just work that much harder. Just a great, great competitor. And he set such a work ethic for the rest of the players. Emmett, if I hollered at Emmett, he'd go into a shell. I wouldn't get anything, from him the rest of the day. So you had to know exactly how to motivate the individuals. And then Troy, I wouldn't holler at Troy. He was my guy, So, but they were great players for me. But people don't realize, and they didn't even. Wanstead's really upset about this. Everybody talks about the triplets at the Dallas Cowboys. They didn't even mention that we led the NFL in total defense. We led the NFL in defense with the Miami Dolphins as well. And at the University of Miami, we played great defense. So it's a team thing. A lot of people will like to look at the offense and we played pretty good defense at Arkansas Razorback. Did we shut out the last five?
Coach, I think everybody here who's a Cowboy fan watches that special and they get fired up. But at the end, it's become apparent. What are we, 31 years or whatever it is? So 27 years since a Super Bowl. What needs to change? What's your observation of that?
Well, players are still the key. You still got to get great players. I think right now they're a little bit top heavy in their salaries. At the bottom end, the roster is not quite as talented as what it needs to be. It's just it's a little bit different. I think when you've had that kind of success, it's hard to get that hunger back.
Right.
And sometimes, the Cowboys have such visibility that people are always patting them on the back and telling them how great they are. When we were 1-15, nobody was telling us how great we were, and we had that hunger. Sometimes when you're fighting to get to the top, things can happen. I may be screwing your program up, but let me just kind of throw in. We're getting ready to play the Buffalo Bills for the first Super Bowl. And I'm thinking, we had the youngest team in the league. Now, I said, how am I going to get this team ready? How am I going to get, because we're going to be playing against Buffalo. Buffalo's been to 2 Super Bowls. They've got these Hall of Fame players, Jim Kelly, Bruce Smith, Andre Reed, Darryl Talley, Thurman Thomas. They got all these Hall of Fame players, and they've been to 2 Super Bowls. None of us have been to a Super Bowl. We don't know what. And I'm thinking, how can I get these guys? Because all the media is saying, hey, Dallas is the underdog. They're going to choke. They're going to fold under the pressure. So I said, well, what can I do to get this team confident that they're going to win this game? And so it was Wednesday before we went to Pasadena. I said, guys, if we, and excuse my language, I'm a coach. Yeah, I said, if we play Buffalo out there on that practice field and nobody's watching, there's no media out there, we'll kick their ass. We'll kick their ass because we don't turn the ball over. We protect the football. They're going to turn it over. Mark my word, they're going to turn it over. You're the best football team. Put that in your mind. We're on that practice field. I said, let me tell you what, if I take a 2x4 and I lay it right here, and I say, walk from one end to the other. Troy, you'd walk from one end to the other because that's what's in your mind. Michael Irvin, walk from one end to the other. You'd walk from one end to the other. No big deal. Hey, dude, get your fat ass up here. You walk from one end to the other. That's what you do. Now let me take that 2x4 and put it up 10 feet. What do? You start walking and you say, don't fall, don't fall. And what do? You fall. Because that's what's in your mind. You think about this. We go to Pasadena, we get them on the field, we kick their ass because we're the better team. You could care less who's watching. You could care less how many Hall of Fame players they've got. They're going to turn the ball over, and we're going to come out on top because we're better than they are. And so it's a little bit, you got to have that confidence and that hunger to be the best. You know, and if you don't have that hunger, when it gets tough, when it gets tight at the end, you say, oh, I'm going to fall. And that's exactly what you do. So you got to have that mindset.
Wow. Oh. That is why he is in the Hall of Fame. Coach, we'll let you go on this. You know, your journey's been pretty amazing. It's been a pretty amazing journey. You talk about, you know, your parents, you know, moving from Lamar. It's remarkable what you've achieved. And do you allow yourself, you're 82, you love being down in the Keys and on the boat. You allowed yourself to just appreciate what the journey's been?
You know, my guys come down the Keys every year, and we got to talking about it. I said, you know, back when we were in Dallas, you know, it was such a grind. And as soon as the season was over with, you know, I was in charge of personnel. So as soon as that last game was over with, I was on the road going to, you know, East-West Shrine game or the, you know, different Senior Bowl, one thing or another, or going to different universities looking at players, you know, to get ready for the draft. I said, we never really had a chance to enjoy it. We never had a chance to get together and hug one another and have a cold beer or one thing or another. I said, it's great that we're doing that now because we couldn't enjoy it back then like we should have, but hey, it paid dividends. I mean, it worked out well for us. But yeah, I'm doing that now. My guys come down, we spend time together. I got out of coaching because of family, and I got the greatest family in the world. Got the I've got great memories of the Arkansas Razorbacks. Thank you.
Jimmy Johnson, everybody. Wow. Outstanding. Woo. Wow. Outstanding. Oh, my goodness. Wow. Great job, Coach. All right, if you're a 50-yard line member or sponsor, come on up. If you're a sponsor, 50-yard line member, we'll do some quick pictures with Coach before he's got to get out of here. 50-yard line sponsors, 50-yard line members and sponsors.